I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so 3.0 is to approve the meeting agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. 4.0 are acknowledgements and recognitions. We don't have anything specifically on the docket tonight. 5.0 is our recognition of visitors and community comments. Our community comments is an opportunity for the public to address the board on an item included in the agenda in accordance with the guidelines printed at the end of the agenda. No one is signed up to speak tonight, but just welcoming all of our visitors. Hello to those of you in the room. Hello to everybody out in cyberspace, either now or in the future.
When it's dark out, we seem to get more attendance.
Yeah, it's true.
Starts to get light out, oh, nobody.
Yeah, that might be a metaphor also. But anyways, thank you all for being here. All right, we'll slide into 6.0, which is our report section. First one up, 6.1 is the principal report. And Mr. Belangi is here, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. And principal report for you all. The big thing going on in Sawtooth right now this week is we're doing our MCA testing with our third, fourth, and fifth graders. So they did their reading and math test this week. They wrapped that up today. And then next week, our fifth graders will be doing the science test. We also are going to have swimming lessons starting up. So this is, again, we've been doing this for quite a while here. But the YMCA hosts all of our elementary students for daily swimming lessons. So next week, our kindergartners through second graders are going to be learning how to swim. Hopefully they can pass the deep water swim test. And then the week after that, our third, fourth, and fifth graders will be over there. That's with Mr. Theismann. He's working with the YMCA to collaborate and set those swim lessons up. So that's happening in the next couple of weeks here. In our middle school and high school, the fun thing going on right now is we have 11 senior high students right now as I'm speaking down at North House, building a timber frame structure, which is, I'm gonna head down there after the board meeting and help them out. This is their long night. They're working until about 8 or 9 o'clock tonight to try to complete this structure by tomorrow. This again is something that's been going on for 20 years, sending senior high students down there to build these structures. Last year, they built a structure that ended up at Camp Minosian. And then this year's timber frame is going to a school down in Duluth. So that's been fun. I stopped down there last night and saw the progress they're making, and it looks great. Also next week, we have our second annual AMP event, which stands for Art, Music, and Poetry. This is for our seventh graders. In English class, they've been working on memorizing a poem. And they've also been creating unique art that kind of describes or shows their poem. So on Friday next week, they're going to be performing in the ACA, reciting poetry with their art behind them. And then in between poems, they've also been working on different ensemble pieces in band. So they're going to be playing music. So this is an event that's open to the public and would love it if people could come by the ACA next week to watch our seventh graders and their AMP event.
When was this event?
What's that?
When was it again? During the day?
It's next week at 7 o'clock in the ACA on Friday.
Friday night.
Sorry, yep.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then springtime means prom's coming up. So May 3rd, we're going to have prom. Saturday, there'll be a grand march beforehand and then the dance. And the venue that it's at this year is down at North Point. Also coming up, we have our Grand Portage Awards Night on May 14th, and then our Senior Scholarship Awards Night is May 1st. And so just for the community, again, wanted to invite them to AMP next week, Friday in the ACA at 7. And then we'll have our prom Grand March open to the community as well on Saturday, May 3rd at 7 p.m. So, yeah.
And the Grand March is here.
Correct, in the gym. Yep.
Yeah, kudos to Betsy and Mila and the team that did that AMP. Last year was the first time.
Yeah.
And it was a raving success. And so that interdisciplinary teamwork is just perfect middle school teaching right there.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I have to give kudos for keeping the swimming lessons program going.
Yeah.
I know that's probably a little bit of a pain to orchestrate, but I think it's one of those things that's super worthwhile, especially here where kids are around water all the time. So it's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you. Alrighty, 6.2 is the superintendent report. Mr. Lindholm.
Yeah, just a really brief report tonight, on Monday. Excuse me, next Monday is a no school day for students. Our faculty will be here starting their day. The elementary folks and ELA folks in Avid training from 8 to 10, and then others doing some curriculum work and some departmental meetings. What's that?
Carry on.
I'm sorry, yeah, carry-all training, that's what I meant, redact training, that's how we're starting the day. Then there's some Avid stuff later in the day, there's curriculum stuff, several other things going on. And then in the afternoon, they'll be focusing in on their school improvement plans, looking back at what they've accomplished this year and what they're starting to set goals and stuff for next year, in their collaborative teams. Next Wednesday and Thursday, DSGW will be here for 2 days of user group meetings. So staff that are involved in that have all gotten an email, kind of got a coverage plan. The way that looks for people wondering is, we chunk out different areas of the project, like elementary, special education and bathrooms. That's a chunk, and we bring in the faculty and staff that engage in that area. And then we have another group for the locker rooms and gym spaces. And do a user group there, another group for the office space. So there's, I think, 6 or 7 groups meeting over those 2 days, just providing some input. In my board report at the very end, there's a link to a monthly progress report from ICS. That's a public document if people want to look at that and see what the construction updates are. And then last but not least, late in today, I threw into my report, we are looking at implementing a new software platform next year that'll be connected to our website to publish the nutritional information for our breakfast and lunch food. It's a missing thing that we should be doing right now, and we're not. So we're going to invest in a platform. Laura's going to invest a lot of hours over the summer populating it with the nutritionals. That's super important for our diabetic students and kids with food allergies to be able to look ahead, figure out what they can eat, what can't eat, and for parents, especially of little kids with allergies and diabetes. So thanks to Laura for taking the lead on that, and that'll be a big project over the summer because it'll take a long time to get all of that data uploaded and have it go live next fall.
Does that have any impact on like what sort of the menu is, so to speak? Like, or will that facilitate that process at all, or?
So, yeah, the planning side of the menu is actually kind of overkill for a school district our size.
Yeah.
We've been doing planning without it per se, but for large systems like Duluth, Proctor, Hermtown, it's super common to have a system like that to plan out your menus in your different schools, making sure you're covering all the bases with food service requirements and all of that. So it's very common to have a system. We're just so small the planning part, but now that there's kind of this expectation with all the dietary needs that kids come to school with today, that we got to communicate to the parents what we're serving, and that's the piece that's super important for some of our folks here. It doesn't impact necessarily what we eat. It just helps with the communication part of it.
And what is it? How come they just don't put like a PDF on the website?
Well, we do that with our menu, but what it doesn't have is the nutritional breakdown of everything that's in that little thing,
Yep, I get you.
Yeah, so for some kids, they have a unique allergy, right? And mom and dad have to look for something.
Yeah, is there any milk product?
Right,
there? Is
right.
there any Whatever.
Exactly.
Will that result in it being harder to like provide new meals? Like if she's like, oh, I want to do this dish, will she feel hemmed in because it's now not like in her system that has all the nutritional stuff?
I would say
Like
no.
split out?
All it means is entering the nutritionals for
For that one meal.
the one meal, and then it's
Yeah.
populated, and then it's in there forever.
Yeah.
So then it's just, it
Is it
rolls
like
forward.
linked to a database where when you put an ingredient in there, it puts that nutritional stuff in?
There's a fair amount preloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, that are connected to
Yeah.
the vendors that we buy from.
Right. Cool.
So, yeah, so the summer work is a lot, but technology's come a long way on that front
Yeah,
too.
it's not like you have to go research all that.
Right.
I don't think you can scan a lot of it, right? If it's manufactured food, there's just a
Yeah.
barcode. Calorie counting is like that. You just scan it. I'm a calorie counter. I know it doesn't look like it. I am.
I count them here.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. The platforms have come a long way over the last decade, so
Yeah.
it's pretty slick.
Okay. Cool. All right, any other questions?
Thanks.
Alrighty, 6.3 is our student school board member report from Greta Youngdahl. Her report is in the packet, but she is unable to attend tonight. So we'll move on to 7.0, which is our consent agenda. If there's anything that needs to be pulled, let me know. Otherwise, we need a motion.
Ocean.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. All right, 8.0 are our discussion and action items. 8.1 is to accept our March expenditure revenue report here for March 2025. And we've got Teresa Oberg in the room with us this evening. If there are any comments you have.
The only difference about the report is that there's an additional column that's outlined. That is talking, I guess, to 8.3. But we're at 75% of the year. So if you look in the far right column, you can kind of track where we are at in the different categories. It's not, I'd say we're doing just fine, like the instructional low, but that's because we will pay out the rest of the teachers through the summer, so we're actually tracking right on spot. As far as that goes, our revenues versus our expenditures to date, we are right on. I mean, I think what we're up by, it's basically break even. But I guess as far as this report goes, I don't have any other additional comments, and I see that there's a discussion between, so.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 items.
Correct. Great. Well, if there aren't any other questions from the folks, we'll just need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the March revenue report.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 8.2, we've got a discussion piece on our construction project and referendum, and we've got Miss Lori Christensen from ICS on the line.
All right,
In a car.
in a car at a track meet. Okay, so just wanted to give you an update kind of where we're at. A lot of good things happening, a lot of positive things. And related to the current project, just so you guys all know, we did get the IRRB application in. And so that's being reviewed and we should hear something in May, and that would be the request for that 7 million. So that's in, and I feel good about that. We also have the sales tax exemption that Jeff and Gary helped us apply for, and that's sitting in the legislature too. So those are two really positive things that they helped us with. The tax exempt would apply to the current project, and then the IRRB would be something that we'd use if you go towards the additional work in November. So those are waiting to be approved, but we do feel good about it. Chris, any other feedback on that?
No, I feel good that all got submitted and is on track.
Okay, excellent. We also applied for the LCCMR grant, and that would be looking at investing another $250,000 in. Well, actually, the grant would be 250, and we'd have a 25% match. So the total project would be around 330, and investing in your outdoor learning areas. Some of it's, we have a nice little drawing that has, different trails, hiking trails, learning spots where they can bring their classrooms. So we're hopeful. This is kind of an interesting one. Technically, this would be spring of 2026 before we hear about it. But we're pretty lucky we have Gary and Jeff on our team. And there's some of those funds that didn't get allocated last year or didn't get used. So they're trying to position it that we could do something unique where those dollars not spent, we could get with our application. So they strongly encouraged us to go after that. So again, we feel good about it, but waiting to hear how that shakes out. So good things. And then we also are looking at that donation of $100,000. To also, you guys heard this, I think Dan and Rita, you guys heard this during the POC meeting. That is going to go towards some sort of outdoor playground or play area improvements. Right now, what we're doing is Chris and I talked, and the top 3 items that we're focusing on utilizing that for would be some like the little kid play areas. Can we get some more ADA or handicap accessible playground equipment? And then can we turf? There's a small section where the elementary kids play football and use some green space that turns to mud. So is there a better surface such as turf that we could do and utilize those dollars? Right now we have, I just received it today. We have like a list of all sorts of different playground. I mean, playground, you can go from 20,000, you could go to 600,000 or $1 million, doesn't matter. But now we have specific items that we could look at and say, okay, we could get this specific playground equipment for 10,000, 20,000. So I have all that data pulled together. So then the district could look at how do we prioritize that. And Chris was going to pull together a focus team to say, okay, what do we want to do with this? Because the deadline for getting something to the Johnson Foundation is April 30th. So the goal is next week, prioritizing and then finalizing it for the 30th. Anything to add on that one, Chris?
No, I think you summed it up pretty good. The intent is to see what are our options and then bring it to a team to say, what do you think? What's the highest priorities? And get that back to Lloyd Kate before May.
Yep. So lots of good positive things for your outdoor that'll be happening and some nice extra funding for that. And then finally, what we're working on is how are we going to shape our Q2 and Q3 or the referendum? What's that going to look like? So currently, I think it was at our last meeting, we actually brought back staff and parent survey results. Currently, we have the community survey that's live. And this was a Survey Monkey that Rap Strategies helped us put together. It's pretty much identical to what we asked the staff and parents because we wanted to be able to compare them. We want apples to apples so we can understand how it aligns. We also are encouraging staff and parents to take this one too. So right now, as of today, it's been live for about a week. We have 268 residents that have participated. And of that, I would say we're probably, I don't know, we're around 50% are non-parents or staff. So I think that's good. Just general public, getting their input is great. That is going to be live till April 24th. And then those survey results, I plan to be in the district on May 1st, and we'll deliver those results. And that should help us have the foundation of where we're going to go and what the scope looks like. If you guys are considering that referendum in November.
So our plan is May 1st, that's a work session. Right? So we'll review the survey at our next work session and see, this is the community response. And have a good, robust discussion about, are we going out for a question? How big? How do we want to frame it? Because then we got to turn around and vote on that at the board meeting in May, or at the very least, a special meeting in June. So we can get referendum materials moving forward. Is that correct, Lori?
Yeah, Yeah, I would say if we could get something approved in June, we'd be sitting good.
Okay.
We are anticipating a pretty high number of referendums on the ballot. So just giving Chris Kubish time to review. We want to probably, if we could be to the table sooner, sooner we can get it back. So that's kind of the goal is June. But deadline would be the first week in July.
What is I don't know if you happen to know this, maybe this is a little more specific than what we're dealing with here, but this IRRR money, should we be awarded it? Would there be a possibility of like deferring that?
No. They made very clear this is a match, the one-time offer, and it's kind of you get it now or you don't, and then you go back for a run later in life, but you never really know.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the talking points, you know, if we don't pass it, we just left 7 million on the table.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and this, I mean, it might feel like this was kind of an easy thing, but this is very unique and you guys are really fortunate to have this opportunity. So I don't see it coming back around. Yeah, it could be pretty hard to get in the future.
That came up in our POC meeting that I just want people to start percolating on, and Rena and Dan, you saw the pictures as they've been doing civil engineering. We saw the ramification of the new gym on the multi-purpose field behind the school that we use for Phi-Ed and football practice and soccer and all of those things. And the single stall gym cuts into that hill significantly as they try to figure out how to manage water flow behind the building. And my first look at that was, well, we certainly can't put on a second stall if that's how big just one stall cuts into that, because we need a field back there for Phi-Ed and soccer. And now, of course, if the referendum were to pass, then we would have a turf field with a lot more usability that we currently don't have. So one could argue that might not be that much need, but we asked them to kind of sharpen the pencil and maybe look at some other options like a retaining wall or pivot the gym a little bit, try to see if that changes anything. So just know that it cuts into that field pretty big, and that's one of the only flat spaces in Grand Marais that we have. So stay tuned, as I guess the message. Is that fair, Lori?
Yeah, and maybe we could have a little bit more for that May 1st.
Yeah.
I can circle back with Steve and Matt and Damien.
Yeah.
And John and Kat. Yeah.
And it's just going to be important to be able to say, hey, we can still get a full football field here, or, you know what I mean? Somehow.
Yeah.
That's what it's used for, is basically football practice and
Soccer.
Phi-Ed, and not official soccer, but soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like during that meeting, they sort of tested the waters with that and got our response, and it was kind of like, well, I think we need to look at this a little bit more. So getting some additional options would be good for sure. So
cool.
Okay.
Anything?
All right.
Anything
Well,
else?
I'll see you. Yeah. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the 1st.
Nope, doesn't sound like it. Okay, well, thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lori.
All right. Thanks, guys. Yep. Bye-bye.
Okay, so now let's see, we're at 8.3, which is to approve the fiscal 25 revised budget. Bring Ms. Hilbert back up. This was the topic of conversation at our last work session.
Yes, at our last work session, we reviewed this sheet. It's also laid out on the, our normal, treasurer's report or expense revenue report, just so you can see it laid out that way, that we look at all the time. So we did kind of discuss and, kind of at length about the things that are going into this budget revision. Primarily it's, some revenues and offsetting expenses that were either didn't know about yet or didn't have as some grants that we got. And then also some like the literacy and READ Act aid that I didn't have specific numbers for yet that didn't get put in the original budget. And then the main thing was the Fund 6, the building construction, so our referendum. So that's kind of highlighted. That's the largest component of this budget revision. Because prior to it, there was zeros and you have to acknowledge that revenue. And so I guess if you wanna talk through it more, or if you want me to go through line by line, or if you feel like you have enough information from the work session, I guess that would be. How much detail would you like me to share?
This is the same as we looked at, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Currently
what's shown, I guess I'll just note is that there's a slightly less amount of revenues and a slightly more of expenses that are going into this. There's still our enrollment that is fluctuating, and this still has the conservative enrollment numbers projected. So whether I feel still quite good that we will end the year with basically a balanced budget.
And again, the number of enrollees is,
Well, the 440 is the number that of students that we're getting revenue for. But if I were to say, okay, let's see.
that's what you budgeted for.
Correct. Correct. Right.
But there's.
Well, I budgeted for K-12 students 420
Okay,
plus those
right.
early childhood special ed and the preschool, but which is 13.6. So that brings us to
Close to
434 is the number that are in this budget, but we are kind of standing at 440. So we're up about 10 students from
budget.
the budget numbers. So there'll be more revenue likely than what I have projected.
Is that about 70,000? What? Is that,
Oh, per student?
no, I mean, total, is that? How much more revenue about? I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically this, this reduced revenue of 80 grand is probably probably zero.
20 grand a kid is kind of the number, right? Napkin math.
Right, because you have the gen ed formula, the $7,000, but then
Basic skills.
the numbers, that number filtrates on all of the
Okay,
formulas.
plus our operational referendum too.
Right, right.
It's driven by enrollment. Yep.
So that's what I have for the revised budget.
Great.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions for Teresa? All right, and we just need a motion to approve it. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 8.4 is to approve the fiscal year 26 budget guideline.
I don't have that one in front of me. Oh,
And this was also the topic of conversation at our last work session as well.
it looks like the updated sheet didn't get in there, but anyways. Yes, we talked about this at the work session. That highlighted blank number, I believe is 8.8 million. The FY 26 projected general fund revenue.
8.8.
Yeah.
Okay, note that.
Because we are doing a better job of projecting our enrollment, coming out of COVID when we were over projecting. We have been able to kind of level some of that ups and downs and pull back after, because if you project too high and they give you the money, then the next year when they reconcile the number of students, they take that money back, kind of thing. So I think our revenues are pretty confidently stated at the 8.8 for general fund. Our fund balance, the first point at the top is talking about maintaining that unrestricted fund balance of 25%. We are quite close. We kind of teeter on the unassigned unrestricted fund balance between 20 and 25%. So that's our goal. And I know that Chris was mentioning to me the other day that legislation, some schools are freaking out a little bit because they're like, oh, maybe we won't give them all their money up at once because the state gives us our funds, 90% of the funds through the year. But in the past, when they've had their own budget constraints, they have given it less frequently. And so if we don't get our funds, we need to have that cushion so that we have cash flow to pay our staff, pay for the bills, etc. So that is an important thing to maintain. We've talked about that multiple times. So this is kind of the context and reality is kind of what we know and what we are expecting. The center column is things that you don't want us to do when we're building a budget. So violating statute or policy. And then the final outcomes, our goal is to produce a budget that, we know that there's 2.74 increase to the gen ed formula. We'll use assigned curriculum technology, assigned funds for curriculum technology and buses if necessary. We do have those additionally upon the unassigned fund balance. There's going to be an increase to staff wages. We just don't know what that looks like yet. We'll be in negotiations with the teachers, so that will be kind of unresolved. So I'll have to put a number in there as far as what that increase will be. And that's salary, benefits, etc. We will be increasing 1 FTE because we have a grant to do the Ojibwe language teacher. So we'll step that individual out of their current role. We'll have to backfill that with another teacher. And then the referendum projects will be happening throughout the year. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything they want to add to this to charge me with while I build this budget.
And the highlighted line there, FY 26 projected general fund revenue will be around 8.8 million.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Compares. I'm just thinking about comparative numbers.
Currently it's
This budget is what?
we're currently at 8.8, but we're dropping it to 8.7. So it's going to be slightly more about the same.
That number
We're
down there.
projecting enrollment to
Stay flat.
stay flat.
Yeah.
Essentially. And it's actually kind of maybe dipping because of those kindergarten
Yep.
classes.
Next year will be our second kindergarten class of less than 20. And then there's the third one that we're all in that projection model.
And it's kind of showing true. I think maybe we're picking up a couple. So.
Yep.
That's on the conservative side of things, I believe, but
Yep.
I think that's a safe way to start.
Okay, and then as far as next steps on this, you'll have in June, that one will
May
First.
I'll have some preliminary numbers to look at so that we have something to
Build
look
on.
at it, build upon, or at least so you guys are seeing it and asking me questions if things look off. How I'm gonna start is I'm gonna start with within our database. I start with an overview of the revenues, but I start with payroll. So because that's the big kahuna. So I will start with that. I will, add percentages to bump everyone up. I will step people, all the teachers. So I will create that first and build on that. So that's how I kind of process through building the budget.
And by the work session in June, you'll be looking at a close to final budget.
Yep.
That may just be tweaked a little bit between the work session and the final meeting, but that's when Teresa, the last 2 years, has given you that narrative that's quite detailed that we publish on our website for everyone to see transparently. So that's what will be going on over the next month.
Kind of breaking it down by fund.
Yep.
So
Cool.
chance to look at it.
She also told me, Teresa told me also that the rules on fund balance in Fund Two are shifting back to the way they were. I didn't know that, so.
I mean,
There's a rule about percentage of fund balance you can have in Fund Two. It used to be what, 3 months of
it
expenses?
used to be 3 months.
And then they changed it to 6. And when it was 3, we had so much in our fund balance that we had to submit a plan to spend it down to be compliant. Then they changed it to 6 and we were okay. They changed it back to 3. We may have to work to spend it down. The good news is we're doing this project and you can spend things like, you can spend Fund Two money on things like tables and stuff for cafeterias, which is part of our referendum project anyway. So we should have opportunity here.
It's not punishing districts that are a little more financial.
I know, right? It's mind blowing.
It is.
Well, I think for a while too, I mean, it's encouraging to have good food and have, all those things. So I think maybe there were some years in there where
Yeah, who knows?
and had less staff, whatever it was.
I had the same problem in my last district. It was crazy.
So I read an article recently that of a district that they're having budget issues, which if anyone reads about education happens in a lot of places, thankfully not here.
At this point,
So far, but one of the things that they mentioned was that the MDE was advising districts to spend down their fund balances. Was that like kind of what you were getting at before in terms of we may not see the drawdown of funds, like, have
I've
they?
never heard MDE suggesting to spend on fund balance.
Yeah, that's
heard
what someone
that.
was
I'm sure it
quoted.
wasn't Ed, Minnesota.
No, it was, there was in one of the articles that MSBA sends out in there.
I didn't
like,
I wonder if it was
treat
similar
like-
to like what you were saying, Chris, that maybe leaving it in restricted
yeah, I don't know.
and spend, I don't know.
I don't know what that would be about.
Yeah,
I know
I
some
mean,
of
if
my,
we get to a point, then we get, slapped on the hand and then, MD will step in and say,
yeah, there wasn't a lot of detail around that. It was just like a quote, like the article. So I was like, oh, interesting. So,
our auditors recommend that we maintain enough for 3 to 6 months of expenditures or 25% in our case. And that's what we try to maintain. So we don't ever want to be caught unable to make payroll or whatever. The superintendents that are getting squirmy about the state holding back funds are superintendents that were in the seat back in the Plenty days when they did that.
yeah,
And it went from 90 to 80 to 70, and for a hot moment, it was 60-40. And that's when a lot of districts ended up having to spend money to borrow to make payroll, to wait for the money to come in the next fiscal year. And those people that were around at that time in this seat, those were painful days across Minnesota.
right.
yeah.
And MSBA doesn't think that'll be at all on the table of this legislative session, biennium. But if projections of the next biennium are accurate,
Mhm.
we don't know what's
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
Anyway, this document gives the parameters to Teresa and me as we go and work towards a budget. So we asked the board to preemptively, kind of proactively approve this to give us the guardrails. And then what we bring back lines up with this.
Cool. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve these guidelines.
I'll second. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, 8.5 is to approve the speech therapy service contract. Here, we've got it in the packet.
I would love to table this up if you
Please.
don't mind. We currently employ a very part-time speech language pathologist, Haley. She was full-time the last 2 years, and now this year she moved to 0.2, which means the vast majority of our speech language students receive services virtually through speech partners. It works, but it's not great. Obviously, we would prefer in-person speech services.
Is that the lady from Canada?
Yeah. So she works 1 day a week, serving some students for us. I I was contacted by a woman who's the agreement, you can see her name is Jane Wolf, recently, because she saw that we had a speech SLP position posted. And she said her and her family have moved to Two Harbors and they have a cabin in Finland and she was wondering if we could figure out some kind of vendor, contracted services agreement. So let's talk. So I set up an interview with her and Tina Frederickson from the Northland Learning Center. We interviewed her. She interviewed off the charts, tons of clinical and medical experience, no boots on the ground experience in schools, except for when she was going through her master's degree and doing some hours there. So I was very impressed with her background, as was Tina Frederickson. Then she came up here and she met for a half a day with Melissa Oberg and we toured the building and kind of did another interview. And I'm sold. The agreement she's giving us is for the same price that we're paying for online services. We would be getting a in-person SLP 2 days a week. And her agreement says 2 days a week consecutively. So she would come up, work a day, probably stay at her cabin, come back, work a day, go home. Her proposal is for 2 days a week. And then, of course, all the paperwork and some compensation for travel, but same price as virtual, just now we get it in person from a very qualified SLP. So my recommendation is that we approve this agreement. We have a start date of May 1 because we think our ESY services and stuff will kick in. That's the, what's the acronym ESY?
Extended school year.
Thank you. Extended school year services through special ed that some kids get over the summer. She's willing to do that. And then the 2 day a week agreement will start with the next school year and go through June 30th. And then we would renew this just like we do our Greater Minnesota Family contracts and all of our other contracts. So the recommendation is to approve this and welcome her on board.
And would this be in addition to Haley or in
Yep.
place of that?
Yep, Haley would still be 0.2 once a week.
So we'd have 3 days a week.
3 days a week of in-person services essentially, and then we would still have to have some virtual services because our caseloads are that big.
Okay, that was my question, if it was gonna.
We have enough
have enough
caseload.
Capacity.
We have enough caseload for basically 2 full-time speech language pathologists. And we have now what would that be? 6-ish. So we do have to still use virtual.
So, okay, but we could ramp that back up if we needed to, like if for some reason this agreement wasn't working out, like for her.
Yeah,
If she
yeah.
didn't want to
Yeah,
do this, then we could
Yep.
go back to that. We wouldn't be like left without.
no, Speech Partners has actually been very flexible with us. Like when Haley was here full-time, they adjusted down. She said 0.2, they adjusted up.
Okay.
So that's one of the advantages of virtual. It's just not as good of a delivery model.
Right, especially for this type of thing.
Yeah.
But, okay. And when you say the cost is the same, it's the cost like the same that we would pay for 2 days of virtual?
The $90 an hour is the same for both.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a $90 an hour rate. Keep in mind, you're paying for a vendor who's paying their own liability insurance, their own health insurance, it's just an hourly flat rate of a vendor.
Okay. Got it. Cool.
And budget for this, we had budget for full-time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve this contract. Sounds like a good thing.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Yeah, just say thanks for being willing to be creative and kind of make stuff happen. It's kind of the way it's got to be up here. So
Thanks.
that's great. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, 8.6 is to accept our slate of donations for April 2025 here. It's a resolution in our packet. Got a donation on there
Robotics.
for robotics. Right, yeah, we just need a motion on this one.
I can make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
Just thanks for,
Donating.
donating and supporting our robotics kids.
For sure. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, 9.0 is personnel. 9.1 is to approve our slate of new hires resignation sheets. Here as presented.
I'll just table it up by saying thanks to Josh and the many teachers and staff that have participated in interviews. So far, we've hired industrial tech, we've hired social studies, we've hired special education, all for next year. We've got instrumental music underway. We've done the interviews and that's in process right now. Elementary, you've done interviews. So that's in process. And then we have the Phi Ed health position next with the AD position to tackle. So that's a lot of work. So thank you to all the people that have been part of that and Josh especially for setting it all up.
For sure. And there's looking up on the outstanding positions, there's people interviewing, applying and all that
It's
sort of stuff.
by far the best pools of candidates that in my 4 or 5 years here.
Yeah,
Very strong pools. When you start getting 7, 8 apps for band, that's way different than it was, the last couple times we've hired that. So
yeah.
it's a good day to be in Cook County.
So
Always good take.
we're benefiting from these, last fall when other districts were cutting. Is that kind of part of the deal or?
I wonder, there's a ton of people cutting all over the place. So, yeah.
Sweet. All right, and if we can just get a motion. A motion.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And let's make sure, yep, okay, that's it. Just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that one.
All right, we're adjourned 5:47.
You always do that so enthusiastic.
Aye.